Two versions of Kharn the Betrayer. Why not make it into a challenge? The model got into my hands exactly as you can see him here. The paint job was really nice for a tabletop model, and at first I was a little bit skeptic if I should even strip him. After a closer examination, I thought that he would have too many paint layers after adding my paint job, and I wanted a different base for him. So, cleaning him up then. After the model is clean, it is always good to sand it a little bit. Very often I see people do not remove mold lines on the metal minis. If they are not visible after painting, then it is not bad, but very often they tend to fall off, leaving a noticeable and painted mark that makes me go crazy. For gluing him I used Gorilla Glue. It is very thick and gives a stronger bond than a regular superglue would do. Not ideal though, as you will see a bit later. Just remember to wear gloves when using it, and leave the model for a few hours, preferably 24, for the glue to dry. So I left him yesterday and I went to sleep. I had a good night's sleep and then I came back home after work, and I had two ideas when it comes to the bases. So the first one was more or less making a similar base to one that I've done previously. You can see it now. This would involve taking a bit bigger base than the 24mm one and then putting him inside of it, some skulls, and then pouring some resin in, but this would involve me cutting off the bottom part of the miniature, which I really don't like doing. And the second one involved me taking also a base, a hollowed base, and stacking up smaller and smaller bases and then gluing them together and making a sort of a hill, which I can then cover up with some skulls and maybe may have some blood dripping out of it, but that would be really cliche when it comes to Kharn Marines, and I really don't want to do that. Also, this miniature may be used as a playable miniature, so he has to stay on the base that he has, and I think I'm gonna go with something more simple. The base, as mentioned previously, is supposed to be a very simple one, only with skulls and some texture paste, nothing fancy. Therefore I started cutting the skulls out of the sprue and cutting them in half to fit better to the base. Less is always better, but in this case the more the merrier. Kharn approves. After gluing the skulls, I took a basic texture paste and put it with a tiny brush into all of the crevices. At this stage it made a lot of sense to prime him black and then make a strong white zenithal. This is how the model looked like after the zenithal. All good, baby. So I thought, of course. The mistake of this approach will come a bit later during the base layer stage. For covering up the model I have something that is called silly putty, so I think. Please don't quote me on that. I know the Polish name, but I don't know the English one. The advantage of it is that it sticks relatively nice and comes off without a problem, and it is reusable for many paint sessions. So just to give you guys a quick explanation of what happened, so it's not all peaches and roses, sometimes the result is very bad, but don't be discouraged by that and just keep on painting. So what came out was that the zenithal, the white zenithal that I put on the miniature was too deep, and I just couldn't get into it with the airbrush and paint it over, and so I had to repaint him just black. And the plan now is that I will start with a black undercoat and just leave the shadows black and try to do the base layers with the airbrush, and then go into painting with a brush. Fortunately for me, there were only thin layers of very diluted paint on him, and I didn't have to strip him to not lose the details. Back to basics then. A black layer, but this time with a Vallejo paint. Then doing the red armor. Afterwards, it was just giving him some transparent purple mid-shadows, as the deepest shadows stayed black. Then it was the yellow highlights with a very transparent acrylic ink and some white for the base and all of the details that will get contrast paints. What makes the armor pop are edge highlights, a chef's kiss on this delicate cuisine. Remember that you don't have to edge highlight everything white. Here, for example, I used yellow paints. I was more or less ready to go into the details. The model just needed some base layers of contrast and normal acrylic paint. This was the stage I was ready to leave him for that day. But then this happened. Let me show you what occurred with this specific cutout from a very popular clip. So he decided it would be a very fun idea if he fall down on the floor, and fortunately only the arm broke off and nothing more. There are some places that the paint fell off, but nothing that I can't cover up with the next layers that I'm gonna do. So the next thing that I'll have to do with this miniature is to pin the arm. So let's have a quick look at how I'm gonna do it. Take some black paint and leave a thick dot on one of the spots that you are sure you will have to drill for the pin. Then, just stick this part with the other one as fast as possible, and after taking them apart you will see a spot on both of them, and then you will be 100% sure where both of the pins should land. Then it is just drilling and adjusting the length of the pin before gluing. Let's be honest, I was a bit fed up with him at this stage. I had paint for an NMM gold ready on my palette, but went with the standard metallic paint. The same went for the silver parts. Then it was just a quick wash and redoing some details with more metallic paints. The contrast paint for the skin turned out really dark, probably because of the black underlayer, and a rather grey than white zenithal. 3 different highlights did the trick. The skulls got a similar treatment, 3 different shades for the highlights. Afterwards it was just doing some very small details and painting the gun silver and giving it, as well as a few other details, a blue wash. Last but not least was the pigment powder to cover up some spots on the base that were empty. Ready for the final reveal? I am really happy that I am done with him. Metal miniatures are my secret passion. I just love the smell and look of the 80s, 90s and early 2000s. The biggest misadvantage is that if they fall, and believe me, it happened more than once to me, they are probably done. Something will fall off, paint will chip off, or parts will bend. So what do you guys think? Leave a comment, I would really appreciate it. And don't forget to share, like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.